Hey, you need a website. Should you try and build it yourself or hire someone outside to build it for you? I get asked this question all the time, and here's my answer. Hey, I get asked about websites all the time. I have a lot of friends in business for themselves. They're freelancers, they're photographers, they're illustrators, and they ask me, should I have a website? Will you build it for me? Should I build it on my own? Or should I use one of those website builders I keep seeing celebrity endorsements for on TV? And I don't think the answer is simple. I know it's super rude to answer a question with a question, but who are you trying to reach? What are you trying to do? And how much time and budget do you have to figure out how to do it yourself? You might even ask yourself if you need a website at all. And sometimes you don't. Depending on your audience, you might be able to be more effective in reaching them in more traditional channels. For example, I live in a small city with a large senior population. It's proven that if you want to reach that demographic, maybe taking out newspaper ads, traditional outdoor, radio, TV, things where their eyes are. I'm being very broad and talking about a demographic right now, but if I was trying to reach seniors, I would probably go to more traditional methods. The other big question is, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to sell something online? Are you creating an online portfolio that people are going to refer to and then give you work from? Are you a restaurateur that needs to put in your contact information, hours, and menu online? There's a million reasons for wanting a website, but the type of advice I give you is really dependent on what you're trying to do, who you're talking to, what kind of effort you want to put forth yourself versus hire out, because all of that dictates what kind of website you're going to need, if you even need one at all. Chances are a Facebook page is going to do just enough for your small business. You're going to be able to post images and pictures and engage your community without any domain names, hosting, coding, all of the extra overhead that comes with a website. So if you're a small business and are looking to engage a community through social, maybe a Facebook presence and maybe beefing up your Google Maps listing is enough. Or maybe your work is more image heavy. Maybe you're a tattooer or you're a photographer or a videographer and you explore tons of things visually. You're an illustrator. Social media channels like Instagram are going to give you way more clout than a traditional website would unless you're transacting and selling work through that site. So what kind of website are you looking to build? Are you looking to build a digital brochure that is 5 sections long? If so, that's a really basic need, and what's going to set you apart is the amount of time you put into your story, your writing, your brand, your photography, things that aren't necessarily specific to a website, and that you can repurpose for other things. But if you need to sell products, demonstrate a process, capture leads, book an appointment, or tell a story with rich media, a traditional website might be what you're looking for, like a custom website or something built with a builder tool like Wix or Squarespace. Before you get to the decision of hiring somebody or doing it yourself, look at your level of comfort with technology. Don't assume your friend who's a computer nerd has a great understanding around graphic design or interface design or usability. Chances are they know how to run the systems that will build your website, and there'll be a creative type that will do the visuals, and often marrying that two in a team gives you the best result. You might find someone to help you that's equally skilled in both design and development. We call those people unicorns because it uses both parts of the brain, logical and creative. There are some basic unavoidable costs with websites that you should know up front. One is a domain name, and that's the address that people type in or they see to click on to get to your website. They have funny endings like .com, .ca, .net, .me. Those are called top-level domains. And you register those like you register the license of your car. You pay a registrar a yearly fee, sometimes multiple years, to hold the rights to that domain name. And then that is like having a vanity plate for your car. Instead of a string of unintelligible numbers, you have michaelwharf.com. And what that does is it gives you a branded address on the website that behind the scenes directs traffic to the computer that spits out your web pages. It also works with email and other branded things. Domain names are cheap and readily available, and if you don't like annual headaches, I recommend buying them and renewing them for multiple years and just setting a reminder in your calendar when they're going to come due. So what else do I have to pay for outside of the initial cost of creating a website? A domain name was one of them. Hosting is another. And hosting is usually a monthly or an annual fee to pay a company whose computer your website sits on, so that when people type in your domain name, the computer is on the other end of that, spitting out your web pages to people's phones and computers and other things. That's what delivers your site from the internet. And so that doesn't come from your home computer, that comes from someone else's computer. And you pay them a fee based on the features that they have. So there's other things to think about as well. There's certificates to encrypt data for banking transactions. So if you sell products, you want to take Visa, credit cards. If you want to take credit cards online, you need something called an SSL certificate, and you need to deal with a payment vendor of some sort. But that's for another conversation. So should I hire somebody or should I do it myself? This is a no-brainer, I think. And if you ask yourself, are you a great writer, a photographer, or an illustrator? I'm sure you know your business, but can you put that professional brand experience together to keep it consistent with your other communications? Visual design, content creation, usability, ease of navigation, and all the technical bits required to make things work on a computer, on a phone, etc. If you're handy, you can teach yourself quite a few things, and maybe dipping a toe in the water is using one of those website builders to see how far you can get before getting into something a lot more expensive. So here's the dirty secret. If you're building a website that is really just an online portfolio or a digital brochure and doesn't really have to do much other than tell your story, I think the amount you do yourself or the amount you budget for the web, you can cheat on how much you devote to the digital side of things. And I think you really need to beef up your brand assets. So the writing, the story, the call to action, figuring out the flow of what you want people to do takes a good strategy and writing team. And often this is something you can have a lot of input to. So if I was going to 80%, 20% my budget, I would put 80% into writing, strategy, photography, videography, and put the 20% into something more generic that can be customized with those assets and elements. So there's a few website builders out there that are kind of in the realm of this do-it-yourself, learn how to code side of things versus hiring someone like me. Websites can be $500, they can be $5,000, and they can look identical. The difference, one could be built with a website builder, the other custom development. And website builders have a lot of templates to choose from and really rely on your brand and your content to set them apart. A couple popular website builders right now are Wix or Squarespace. And you see a ton of advertising for them on TV and on YouTube and other channels online. Chances are, if you've got transferable skills like you're a print designer, you can transfer those skills easily to a drag and drop website builder. The downside is that if you want it to do anything custom beyond what is presented, you're sort of painting yourself in a corner for future-proofing your website. The upside is that it's going to look great, it's going to work on phones, and it's going to be up in no time at all, so you can get out there and test your website out on people. So say I'm a small-time freelancer, I just need some credibility, I need a website because my competitors have websites, they've got great Google positioning, they've got ads out there, and I just want to have a Me Too website because I feel that that's what I need to do for credibility. Squarespace would be a great option for you. You can use their drag and drop page builders to build out pages and pay them monthly fees to add on features if need be. Eventually you'll find you might outgrow this approach and you need to redesign your site and change the platform that it runs on. You might move to something more technical and hear words like WordPress and Drupal and content management, those types of things. Those offer you a lot more flexibility and a lot more options, but also a lot more headache. I have a friend who's a local photographer here in town who over the past year has had his WordPress site hacked twice. And he's called me up and said, he calls me Warpheus. Warpheus, my site's been hacked, what do I do? And I think, okay, this is WordPress, and this isn't a great fit for you because you're not doing the care and feeding of your website. You're really noticing only when things break down. And so a site like Squarespace is a great option because they take care of the security headaches, the maintenance, the patching, the updates. But on the other hand, they charge you heavy for any customization down the road. It's a monthly fee. They do the hosting, the setup. In fact, they'll even do the domain. They'll make it painless for you. So if you were just starting out and wanted to test the waters, it's a great option. If you wanted to sell products online, a great option like Squarespace would be Shopify. Shopify is a hosted web store that I think integrates with lots of payment providers, but I think their default is Square. And so if you had a bricks and mortar store that had a Square reader and you wanted to have like an online version of your store, Shopify would host, do all the catalog stuff, do the shipping integration, and really help you promote that store all in one hosted platform. The downside is that if you lean away from the store and you want to beef up the blog or the multimedia storytelling, or you wanted to get really funky with your design, it's limited. And just like Squarespace and Wix, if you want to do anything custom or make it do something different, it's harder to tweak than a custom piece. If you know your needs are a little more complicated, hiring a professional at the outset and really being specific about your expectations and what you want that website to do is key. Managing your expectations and realizing that something basic might be a great thing to get out the door and bolt on in a phased approach. Getting that basic website builder site done now, seeing how it interacts, seeing how it operates, and having a strategy for growth, and maybe moving on to something like WordPress or Drupal or something more custom down the road is a great way to just test the waters. You don't really know. It's like having your first house. You buy a starter home, you move in, you think, yeah, this plan's awesome, this is great. And then after your first year of living in your starter home, you realize, I really needed that shower head a foot higher. And I really needed this kitchen counter to be over here. And I really hate that there's only 9 cupboards in the kitchen when I really need 12. And my dog really needs a doggy door. And you start to live in it and get these ideas. That's just like having a website. Figuring out the growing pains, taking note of them, and having a plan of action for doing it for real in phase 2, when you see the return and you can budget real money because you have real returns, that's a great strategy. So you've built a website, you've decided you've gone custom, you've taught yourself how to code, you've built it yourself, you used a website builder instead, or you hired a developer or a designer, and they've built something beautiful for you. Now what? Well, you've got to promote it. You've got to let people know that that site exists, and you've got to make it useful for people to come back to. This is why I put so much stock in the beginning around content. Getting a great story, getting a great strategy, getting great brand assets to support that story and give you some credibility. Because that's what's going to set you apart from your competition. Optimizing your story in text form means that Google will look at your story and realize that your story, your content in your website can be organized in a way that Google will naturally index it higher than unfocused websites. And so thinking about writing at the outset pays huge dividends down the road for organic search. If you don't want to put a lot of effort into your writing, you can pay. You can pay for placement on search engines to drive traffic to your website. And that's fine too. People do it all day long. You can pay on social media, you can have Facebook ads, you can have Instagram ads. In fact, they're the same company, they'll take your money twice. There's lots of ways to drive traffic to your website, but organic search is the cheapest and one of the more effective. Social media referrals would also be up there in the return on investment. And you've also got to be really honest with yourself and say, okay, who's going to maintain my website? Do I have the time and the skills to update software, to write new blog posts, to add new products, to ship things out that are ordered online, to deal with credit card headaches? Do you have what it takes to grow your site and think about new features down the road? Websites don't just launch and then you forget about them. Although with a lot of websites I see, you might think that was the case. If you have a great plan around maintenance of who's going to do what, when, and how often, you'll have a higher chance of success. So those are a few tips around websites. I hope I answered your question. How much does a website cost? Really, it's how long is a piece of string? How much does a house cost? The answer is it depends. It depends on how much time you're willing to put into it, your comfort level with technology, how credible your brand presence is already, and what you can put in the mix or trust other people to do. I'd love to hear about your approach building websites and if you agree with me, or what points you do differently. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.